Hello everyone and welcome to the Smashi Business Show. Today is Thursday, September 25, 2025 and I'm Abdul Majid Awan.
And I'm Ward Ahmed, and we've got a packed show for you today. Firstly, Saudi stocks surge on hopes of foreign ownership reforms, and foreign buyers right now are snapping up Saudi Giga-Project homes ahead of the new ownership law. And the UAE buys a $27 million DC area mansion, the highest sale for Washington this year.
And the very first story is very interesting today. $124 billion added into the Saudi stock exchange and market value. Why? How? We'll tell you. Saudi Arabia's stock market recorded its sharpest rise since 2020. That's COVID, with the Tadawul All Share Index, which is easily called TASI, climbing 5.1% on Wednesday yesterday. The rally added $124 billion in value after reports suggested that the regulators in the Saudi market may ease limits on foreign ownership in listed companies.
Banking stocks led the surge, soaring a record 9.2%. Al Rajhi Bank, Saudi National Bank, and Al Bank were among the biggest gainers. Analysts say the prospect of lifting the current 49% cap has fueled renewed optimism in the financial sector.
And easing foreign ownership restrictions could attract billions in global capital. JP Morgan and Franklin Templeton estimate such a move may unlock over $10 billion in passive inflows while boosting Saudi Arabia's weight in key MSCI and FTSE emerging market benchmarks.
Al Rajhi Bank alone could see $5 to $6 billion in fresh foreign investments. Analysts expect the entire banking sector to be a primary beneficiary if Saudi regulators move forward with ownership reforms that would allow majority foreign holdings in listed firms.
And the Capital Market Authority has yet to confirm a decision. Any easing beyond 50% would mark a historic step in opening Saudi equities. Analysts caution, however, that long-term performance will still hinge on oil prices, reforms, and regional stability. And it's very important because Saudi capital market is the biggest market in the GCC, in MENA area, biggest in terms of market value also. But yeah, $124 billion just added in a day on a speculation.
So
it's not even confirmed right now. They will take a decision by the end of 2025 that if a foreign owner, for example, me, I am a foreign owner because I hold a Pakistani passport. If I go and I start investing in a Saudi listed company on the Saudi exchange, I can't buy more than 49% shares. So 51% will always be with a Saudi national. So now if they remove that cap, a lot of companies, first of all, will get a lot of fresh capital, one, but then foreign ownership in terms of owning the company's stocks and being on the board of director in the decision maker position.
Do you think Saudis will be really happy about that? I don't think so.
I don't think
really
they will
don't.
have a problem with it. They shouldn't have a problem with it because it brings a lot of money to their country, which they need right now, not in terms of need that, oh, they're poor. They needed to do all the extravagant Giga-Projects for the next
2030
story.
vision.
Yeah, they need all that money, any money, every kind of money they can get to build all those projects. So eventually Saudi Arabia can become what Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman envisions it in the next decade or so.
And it is becoming that right now, Majid.
Yeah.
The reason why I said, are Saudi Arabians going to be happy about this is because this is one of the smallest examples that I can possibly bring up right now. But remember that entire story, that entire scandal with that shawarma shop,
Yeah.
the one called Shawarma? They didn't have a food poisoning case, nothing that had to do with health and safety.
Yeah.
But essentially, the entire reason for their boycott and, to be honest with you, downfall is because they hired someone who was not Saudi, and then claims came out that they prioritized hiring foreigners over Saudi nationals, and that caused such a uproar for the community there. And for me to see that uproar, like Majid, it's crazy, over a restaurant. You can imagine what kind of uproar would happen over property. Remember that story that came out, the one about how foreigners can basically buy shares in companies that own land near the Hajj? Correct me if I'm wrong. It was a big story that we had done.
In Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, it was this big news that basically came out.
So what is now the case, which is our next story, which is kind of linked to our next story also, is that you can buy land in Saudi Arabia. Before you couldn't, or you needed someone co-investing with you.
Yeah.
Now you can have foreign ownership in a lot of areas now. And I think it's because there's so much white land, which is called white land because there is no development on it and it's just there. So there's so much of white land that they think that if they open the market to foreign investors, they would come, they will invest money, and obviously that money can then be used for other projects and the vision 2030 that they have, and then eventually vision for 2040 and 2050 whenever they come up with it. So that is one move, and now this is the second move. It's basically, to be honest, if it's not something new. We've already seen UAE do it. Again, example of UAE. We have freehold properties. They're not called foreign owners. They're called freehold properties. And they're there in Abu Dhabi. They're now here in Dubai. You have complete ownership on it and everything. So it's kind of like following a script, looking at UAE, opening the market to foreigners to invest in real estate, invest in stocks, invest in everything. So Saudi Arabia is finally doing that. A lot of other GCC countries have laws and regulation where you're not allowed to own land without a co-owner who is a national. But everything is changing. Now they're eventually opening up because they know that a lot of people want to come into this country and invest. Not everyone can start a company and do a business. Some people just want to invest for passive income. Real estate is the best passive income. 6-7% ROI per year, not bad. So they've realized that and they're doing it. And
Yes,
that takes
they
us to the
are.
next story, because international investors are making their first property purchases in Saudi Arabia's Giga-Projects, including Red Sea Global, Diriyah, and Alula. Sotheby's International Realty reports dozens of pending sales agreements with foreign interest now at 10%, up sharply from 2 years ago when there were virtually no overseas buyers.
The surge comes ahead of a new law taking effect in January, allowing foreigners to own property without needing a golden visa. Now, analysts say the regulatory change aligns with Saudi Vision 2030 goals, aiming to diversify the economy and attract international capital to the kingdom's real estate market.
And luxury residences in Giga-Projects can start at 9 million Saudi riyals, that's nearly $2.4 million. Banks, developers, and tourism authorities are counting on foreign buyers to boost demand, accelerate growth in high-end real estate, and strengthen hospitality initiatives, positioning Saudi Arabia as the competitive destination for global investors.
Market watchers expect clarity before year-end on where foreigners can buy, with Riyadh, Jeddah, Mecca, and Medina under consideration. Pending deals at Red Sea Global already show 40% foreign participation, signaling a very strong appetite ahead of official regulations.
And analysts quoted say once rules are confirmed, momentum could transform Saudi Arabia's real estate sector into one of the Gulf's most accessible for international buyers. Giga-Projects are likely to lead the charge, reshaping investment patterns in the kingdom. And Giga-Projects should, because they were made for investments. And it makes sense that a lot of people who are coming to invest in Saudi Arabia now, to buy land, to own land, foreign owners, non-Saudi nationals, they see a good market for it. And again, coming back to UAE, it's the same. UAE did it a long time ago. Now UAE has gone towards blockchain also. They're breaking the property into blockchain parts which you can buy.
I still can't believe this is real, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly, like, there's a part of me that will just never understand it.
Yeah.
But you know what, Majid, with this, like, just on the mention of Red Sea, remember that story that came up that we had covered, that report by AGBI that
Yeah.
basically said that, no alcohol will be allowed in Red Sea. Red Sea is very beautiful. I think it's interesting how the numbers are so telling. There's already 40% foreigner interest in these projects in the Red Sea, which has made it very clear that we will not allow alcohol into this. And I think that this is such good evidence, and it's a testament that this rule that they're holding on to, it's not affecting things. It's really not affecting things, and I think that that's a really positive thing to see.
Yeah, the main thing is they need money, and they're getting money through any kind of initiative that they can. The good thing is finally they're doing it. They're not relying only on oil. recently, what's his name, Yasser Al-Rumayyan,
Yeah.
the PIF governor. He was in America. He was at a event, and he said that it's kind of like a poison, the oil disease, as he called it, that Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is completely against. He doesn't want to rely just on oil. He wants to diversify, and that, I think, is the story of the whole Middle East right now. Everyone wants to diversify from oil, because till when can you take out oil? They have oil for like next at least 4 or 5 decades, but then what? And also he pointed out,
actively diversifying their economies away from oil.
sorry,
Nations
my Google Gemini started talking bad things about AI that you can see randomly it turned on. But yeah, that's the main thing. Saudi needs money. They have been publishing bonds. They've been trying to get loans. They're doing everything that they can to finish the projects that they are trying to build. And one of the biggest projects that I am looking forward to is the stadiums for the 2034 World Cup. Giga-Projects, I think everyone has talked about them so much, but still there is no chat about the stadiums that they're building for the 2034 World Cup. They're huge investments which take a lot of money and space and time. And I think that is one frontier where no one is looking at. And that is where everyone should look at.
No, but Majid, I think what's also so interesting is, you know how you said that they're diversifying away from oil? I find, and I mentioned this company for a very specific reason, ADNOC. I find their strategy to be really interesting because we saw how through XRG,
Yep.
they tried to take this bid for Santos and it just completely collapsed. Not their fault, it's Santos' fault. Apparently they had a leak that the entire media reported and they failed to tell ADNOC. And then right now they're basically also trying to take over Germany's Covestro.
Yeah.
And I believe that it's this plastic giant in Germany that is not an oil company.
Yeah.
And I think it's so interesting that as an mainly oil company, they're basically going after infrastructure. I think it's so interesting because it's like you don't just see that the nations are diversifying themselves. You're seeing that the companies themselves are diversifying themselves away from oil. Like this is really rooted.
Yeah, and ADNOC, we've talked about it a lot. She loves the coffee, ADNOC coffee.
Oh, I'm so obsessed. I'm so
and
obsessed.
they have diversified from just having petrol stations to retail marts. They also have, funnily, when I read for the first time, I was like, okay, this also happens. They also have electric charging stations also, which are under ADNOC. Then ADNOC retail business is not only here, it's also in Saudi Arabia. I never thought about it that Abu Dhabi ADNOC oil company would ever set up retail stores in Saudi Arabia, but they have. And Saudi allowed it, very interestingly, because they are themselves a giant. They have Aramco, the biggest dividend provider in the world. They could have easily done that themselves.
Even in America,
Yeah.
which really surprised me.
Yeah. So it's very interesting how they're diversifying. It's just that you go into the details and you find out that it's not just oil that they're selling a lot of other things. But moving on, very interesting, big purchase by the UAE government. They've purchased a 21,000 square foot mansion in McLean, Virginia for $27.5 million. And this is a report by the Wall Street Journal. It is the most expensive home sale in the Washington, D.C. area so far this year in 2025, reflecting the growing appetite for luxury properties by Gulf states. And it's owned by the Dubai government, by the way.
The acquisition adds to at least 21 properties owned by UAE entities or citizens in the region, collectively valued at around $200 million. Real estate agents note Emirati buyers often buy above market rates, helping to reset property values in McLean's Gold Coast and other prestigious neighborhoods.
And Gulf states, including the UAE, have long used Washington as a hub for diplomacy, security, and business connections. Luxury real estate serve as housing for royals, government officials, or venues to host international guests, highlighting the strategic as well as residential value of these acquisitions.
The McLean purchase is part of a broader trend of high-profile Gulf acquisitions in the U.S. capital area. Analysts say these moves reflect both investment appeal and the importance of having secure, prestigious, diplomatic locations for official functions and international representation.
And lastly, this isn't the first time Gulf states have made record-setting U.S. property purchases. In 2018, Saudi Arabia paid $43 million for Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis' childhood home, underscoring the region's long-standing interest in elite American real estate. Yeah. So yeah, they're very big buyer. They have the money, they can.
No,
it's
but
all
it's-
about money today, that if you have the money,
Yeah.
you can. If you don't have the money, you can borrow it and build something which will eventually pay for whatever you borrowed for. Big money makes big money. That's the rule, and that's always been the rule.
I think with this, Majid, I think it's the fact that they're honestly using it as something very diplomatic.
Yeah.
I found out that the UAE has an embassy in Washington, and we also saw how earlier this year, before President Donald Trump made his visit
Oh, yes.
to the UAE, His Highness Sheikh Tahnoon, the National Security Advisor of the UAE, had gone over to Washington, and there he had met with, all the business billionaires, Larry Fink, and Jensen Huang, and then after that he had met up with Trump, and that's where they signed that $1.4 trillion deal.
Oh, yes.
So I think that I think that this story, in this case, like this house is just, I feel like it's just going to be like an embassy. It's going to be for diplomacy,
Yeah.
for them to host their
Whenever
meetings.
they're there, they'll live, and it can host them as their house base. And obviously, when they're visiting, someone will come visit them. So it's kind of like a very ultra luxury drawing room in Washington, D.C. It shows you that how much money, the capital accumulation that is there in the UAE, in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, that they're now going and buying and making the largest purchases in the whole year. So it shows you the
Crazy.
strength that comes with capital. You don't only just have money and you can splash it around. You can buy a lot of diplomacy with it, and you can buy a lot of good hosting with it also.
And that's
Yeah.
a wrap for today, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into the Smashi Business Show. Make sure to follow us across all social media channels at Smashi Business, and stay ahead with our daily newsletter. You'll find the subscription link in the description.
This has been a Smashi Business Show, Smashi Business production, part of the Augustus Media Podcast Network. A big shout out to our more than 2 million monthly listeners across all platforms. You make this possible. If you're one of them, we appreciate you. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow on Friday.